Hi, welcome to Cubs and Culture for 11/12/2018. Sorry for how this video is starting, but my computer's being a piece of shit at the moment. So hopefully it's recording. Okay, I'm also a little bit pressed for time. That's probably my favorite moment of the year, that grand slam that Javier Baez hit during the Baez game against the Dodgers. He's always been a Dodger killer last year. Anyway, so I'm going to get to the Cubs stuff and the off-season stuff later today. I just wanted to talk about the World Series for a moment because of that being relatively straightforward. If my goddamn computer will stop fighting with me. Anyway, unlike last year, when the Dodgers were in the World Series, they were the better team. Unfortunately, the Astros won, and Roberts fucked up. This year, no matter how you looked at it, ELO, win-loss record, or Pythagorean theorem. I don't know if these are going to fight with me or not. The Boston Red Sox were clearly the better team, so it ended up being relatively relaxed. While these are being brought up, I will say this. I thought the series as a whole... Now, let me break this down into three different sections. The first section is just going to be about the World Series as sort of entertainment, and I'm going to talk a little bit about tactics, and then I want to talk about Game 3, which was the marathon game. Overall, I thought this series was okay. I mean, it was very lopsided. Outside of Game 3, which was the marathon game, pretty much all the games were not competitive. Because it was like 8-4, 5-2, 5-1, 9-6, etc. Overall, though, it was very, very good because most of the games, while ultimately they didn't end up competitive, they remained somewhat competitive through the middle innings. The only exception to that was Game 5. Because Kershaw once again sort of came in and shat the bed in an elimination game. So other than that, it was pretty straightforward entertainment value. It wasn't the best series ever. It never really it was never really competitive. And I think, given that the 2017 and 2016 were such epic series, we were kind of due for a clunker, and this happens to be it. Okay, so that's the general thing. Now I want to talk a little bit about Dave Roberts and bullpen management, because even though I don't think Roberts... so if you're a Dodger fan, and you are looking for a reason for why you lost the series, you have to pretty much blame Bellinger and then Kershaw, because those two were the lowest in terms of win probability added. And I actually would think Kershaw is sort of the main one. So there's part of it's just that the Red Sox are having a much better year than the Dodgers. With that being said, to go down 4-1 and to eke out the most technical victory in your one win really made it lopsided. Now, with that being said, Roberts still deserves a little bit of the blame, and it's specifically, and I'm not the only one to mention this, this was a huge sort of commentary controversy when it happened in Game 4. Now, here's the thing. The Red Sox went up 2-0 before they went to the LA, and then they had that absolutely crazy marathon game, which I'll talk about in a moment, when they played 18 innings, and for the first time in a month, the Red Sox are a little bit reeling. And then Rich Hill comes in, as Rich Hill does, and pitches a very good game through 6.1 innings. And then Roberts removed him. Now, you got to remember, in the context of the way in which Alex Cora was managing, he was very, very aggressive. And he literally used Game 4 starter in the extra inning game. So the Red Sox pitching was a mess, in a large sense, in a large part because of that game 3, and because Sale being injured and them not really have a rotation set, everything like that. Game 4 very well could have been, like, the Dodgers were in a much better position with their pitching than the Red Sox were at the start of Game 4. And if Hill pitched normal, he wouldn't have been fine. Now, here's the thing. Hill did pitch well, and Roberts pushed him a little bit further than he normally does. He lets him went through the start the order third time, but he pulled him, and then he put into, let me look. He put in Scott Alexander, who was a lefty, who just simply walked the guy who came in, and he put in Ryan Madson. Now, to me, this is three distinct decisions. The first decision is when to pull Hill. The second decision is, do you put in Alexander? And the third decision, do you put in Madson? A whole lot of the commentary around this in sort of the baseball world was he pulled Hill too soon. And now that, I think that's a position you can defend. Either way, that either he pulled Hill too soon, or he pulled him at the right time. Whatever. Because they had a 4-0 lead, and it was only after pulling Hill that the Red Sox scored 9 runs. Any case, Hill said to Roberts, watch me, which indicated he was getting tired. He's also, Hill is also older than dirt. He's like 38. And it's been 2 times deep into the postseason. And actually in 3 years, because they also made the NLCS in 2016. And even though he hadn't pitched a whole lot, he was at 91 pitches. And more importantly, Hill handed Roberts the ball, which customarily, that means you have to take him out. But also sort of like psychologically, Hill checked out. That's fine. I think you can come down either way. And that decision to pull Hill is reasonable or defensible. What is not defensible, and which is objectively insane, and I think it changed the entire composition of this series, was this goddamn, even putting in like Scott Alexander, even though he gave up that walk, is Ryan Madson was not a fireman in this series. He was a fucking arsonist. Every single inherited runner he had in the games 1 and 2 and 3 scored on him. And it was often by the home run, which is why they ended up putting up 3 runs in the 7th inning. Was because of the home run off of Madson, the 3-run, which opened the door for them, and then the Red Sox just walked through. So here's the thing. You had Wood, Maeda, Floro, Jansen, who were used. Other than that, you could have also, despite the platoon thing, you couldn't have extended Alexander another batter, etc., or 2 batters, to see if you could have worked something. The left-right thing is probabilistic. It's not anything else. Ryan Madson, in game 1 he came in, opened the door, and he got shelled. Game 2 he came in, got shelled, and he's the reason why they won. In game 3 he came in and struggled, and he ended up technically giving up the go-ahead run. If I'm remembering correctly. In game 4, he should not have been used. He should have been the last person used, and it's absolutely fucking ridiculous that Roberts used him in that situation, because, and the reason why he did is the analytics. Yeah, okay, so he didn't actually give up the go-ahead run in game 4, but he still struggled, and he ended up really, really not pitching well in game 3. In any case, going back to game 4. So there's this notion in statistical analysis called regression to the mean. So then eventually, if you have a guy who in their large sample is really, really good, if he hits a rough patch, eventually he'll revert back to his career normal. Or conversely, if a guy who really, really struggles, but he's in a really nice groove for a moment, eventually he'll, given enough time, he'll revert back to being not doing as well. Madsen, for whatever you want to say about his World Series performance in general, was a pretty good pitcher, and he had a down in general in his entire career. Now he happened to have a down year, but he still was mostly reliable out of the bullpen. The thing is, you only have 4 losses to play with in a series of 7. You don't have time for regression to the mean to kick in, and you have to, and I fucking hate this about Roberts, is he doesn't watch the games. He just goes by the analytics. Regardless of what the large sample, the 700, out of 70,000 cases, Madsen's a good matchup in terms of, the angles or the probabilistics. Whatever reason, the Red Sox were on his pitches in the World Series, and so after Game 2, Madsen should have been dead, and period. And if not after Game 2, when he came in Game 3, then he's definitely should be dead. So I think so I don't think Roberts cost them the series. I think his inexplicable inability to see how things were playing out in front of his fucking eyes, which is exactly what cost him the series last year, made this series less competitive because he decided for whatever fucking reason to die on the hill of Ryan fucking Madsen. Now, give me a second. Okay, continuing now. I want to talk about Game 3. Now, Game 3 was the marathon game. It was 18 innings long. It was a pitcher's duel, sort of, and it was 7 hours and 20 minutes long. I did not watch all of it. I watched innings 1 through 6. As in, I watched 1 through, I watched the top of the 6th, and I took a break. Just because I had other things to do, and then I came back in the 9th inning, and then I went and watched 9 through 18. It's 7 hours and 20 minutes long. It's longer. That game was longer than the shortest World Series in total, because in 1939, it was a 4-game sweep of the Yankees by the Reds by the Yankees. In total, those 4 games took 7 hours and 5 minutes. This game took 7 hours and 20 minutes. And I think this is, to me, absolutely emblematic of everything fucking wrong with the sport in terms of engagement, because basically nothing, actually let me bring it, basically nothing happened in 7 hours and 20 minutes. The game was 3-2. Of the 5-run score, 3 of them were solo home runs, and then the other 2 were manufactured run based off of fielding errors. There were about 120 plate appearances. Of the 120 plate appearances, about 40 of them, or more than almost 40% of them, so 120, about 48 of them were a strikeout, a walk, or a home run, which is 3 true outcomes. And I think this game is absolutely emblematic of the problems with the way in which analytics, being too successful, have stagnated the sport by giving basically pitchers way too much. Pitchers are dominating in such a way that the only way a guy can, sometimes if a guy is locked in, the only way in which you can get punched through is via the walk or the home run. And it's absolutely was absolutely horrifying after a while, because I would guess about another 10 to 15 outs were deep flyouts, and so it just became one after another, and it just stagnated and became indistinct. And while there's certain moments in the game that sort of stand out, like Bellinger fucking up and getting caught stealing, basically, a base path error, or him sort of redeeming himself with that nice throw from center to rob a sac fly, etc. There's overall, the game is highly indistinct, and it was just a mishmash of one reliever after another, and one pitcher locked in after another, for the most part. And the issue with this is so pitching duels become interesting and become fun because it's two different pitchers. It's not watching an entire pitching staff dominate a lineup. It's specifically about two pitchers being locked in an epic duel, such that if you're going to see who will blink first. Now, the problem with this is the game on that front, where it's such an awful game, is it was sort of a pitcher's duel, because you had Walker Buehler, who pitched very, very well for 7 innings, which is pretty good. And then you also had Eovaldi for the Red Sox, who pitched brilliantly in extra innings. Even though he took the loss, it was 6 innings of basically shutout ball with 5 strikeouts in extras on the road. It was one of the most amazing pitching performances I've ever seen just by looking at sort of the numbers. The problem with it is it was separated by 5 fucking innings of multiple relievers, where it's just one arm after another. And so this game is all the problems of the sport. A lot of sound and fury signifying nothing. Too many relief pitchers just marching in and being able to dominate the lineup because of perfectly matching reliever to batter. And then it being incredibly stagnant in terms of balls in play, because there really wasn't all that many balls in play, because there was too many fucking strikeouts, walks, and home runs. And then everyone was trying to lift the ball, especially in extra innings, so you just sort of got to it. So this game was incredibly stagnant. I actually hope to God this game most people did not watch, because I think if you don't like baseball but watch the World Series, this game will turn you off, because it is such a bad form of the game, because it's no longer about 2 starters being locked in. It's just the analytic people have gotten to the point where unless someone makes a mistake some days, you are in for a marathon, and it's just ended up being, I think, the worst World Series game I've ever seen. And so it's such a perfect example on which the 3 true outcomes, walk, strikeouts, home runs, need to be somehow decreased. Move the mound back, lower the mound, some combination thereof. Maybe expand the strike zone or shrink the strike zone. Whatever it is, we have to find out a way of getting out of this proliferation of the 3 true outcomes and get more fucking singles. Because this game didn't have all the qualities of a pitcher's duel. It was just awfully stagnant, and I feel like I'm just repeating myself. So that's going to be it for Cubs and Culture. See you guys in a bit.